Okay, picking up with slide number 22, let's talk about the anacrusis, also sometimes known as an upbeat. So we'll use those two terms, anacrusis and upbeat, interchangeably. So the anacrusis, or the upbeat, can be described as what happens when rhythms do not necessarily begin on the first beat of a measure. So if we're looking at our graphic here on slide number 22, we can see that the very first note of the song is not part of a full measure, right? Our meter signature in this this tune is 3/4, right? So recall, what does that mean? The upper number tells us that there should be 3 beats per measure, and the lower number tells us that the quarter note gets one of those beats. So we see one quarter note, therefore one beat, as the first note of this song. And so that's how we know it's not a full measure, right? Because a full measure would have 3 beats in this case. So such notes, like the very first note of the song, right? And I'm talking about this one, if you haven't picked that up yet. So that is called an anacrusis, or an upbeat, right? So it's the first note or notes of an incomplete measure. All right, let's move on to the next slide, 23. So a little bit more about this idea of the anacrusis, or upbeat. So if a melody begins on an upbeat, just like in my 3-cornered hat here that we see on the graphic on slide 23, you are likely to find similar patterns elsewhere in the melody. What rhythmic patterns do we see in this melody? Well, I see a quarter note followed by a half note, right? So remember, here's a quarter note, and then it's followed by a half note. And then I see it again, a quarter note followed by a half note. And then it kind of changes here, quarter note followed by a quarter note, but then a quarter note followed by a half note, and that's tied. But then I see, again, a quarter note followed by a half note. So we kind of have this pattern of a quarter followed by a half. And that is a pattern that is started with the anacrusis at the very beginning. And that's kind of a typical thing to see. Okay, so then let's move on, slide number 24. A little bit more about the anacrusis, or the upbeat. So usually the final measure, right, the last measure, will be shortened by the rhythmic value of the upbeat. So what do we mean by that? If we look at the final measure here, this is also on the graphic here on slide 24, we see that it's also incomplete, right? It's a half note. And, right, how many beats should we have? We should have 3, but we only have 2 here, because half notes get 2 beats, remember that? But if we add this final measure to the incomplete measure here, so the incomplete measure here plus the incomplete measure here, we'll get 3, right? So we have 2 for the half note and 1 for the quarter note, so that's 2 plus 1 equals 3, right? Which adds up to our meter signature, which is 3/4. So the final measure will be shortened if you see an anacrusis or upbeat at the beginning. And this allows for repetition of the melody without breaking the regularity of the meter. So That just means that you could play this whole melody, which maybe you should try to do on your keyboard. Play this whole melody if you can. If you can't, that's okay too. And then when you get to the end, you'll count 2 beats, 1, 2, 3, and then you'll get to your third beat here without even stopping. Okay, so there's no repeat sign, but you could still repeat the song, and that is what often happens with these tunes with upbeats. So, so that's the anacrusis or the upbeat. Okay, so let's move to our next slide. Let's see if we can find a few examples of songs that begin with upbeats. So you can look in the songbook in your book. The songbook begins on page 236. So let's see here. I'm going to go there to page 236 and see what we can find here. So, okay, the first song is America the Beautiful. And I noticed, oh, it does have an upbeat or an anacrusis. So we see what's our meter signature for America the Beautiful. Right, it's 4/4. So we should have 4 beats per measure, and the quarter note sh is going to be one of those beats, right? So how many do we see though here in this first measure? We see only 1, right? So we can tell it's an incomplete measure because if it doesn't have 4, that means it's going to be incomplete, right? In this case, it should have 4 because we can tell by our time signature or our meter signature. So America the Beautiful would count as one example of a song that begins with an upbeat. So see if you can find a couple more after America the Beautiful, and then we'll move on to slide number 26. Okay, so that's basically it for now for upbeats and the anacrusis. Also, it's a good idea to practice some of these things. So if you want to practice those a little bit, maybe we'll go back to the 3-cornered hat example. What you do here, let's see, it starts on a G note. So we'd want to go 1, 2, 3. We're going to start this right on beat 3 in this case. And then our next note would be A. So we go like 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2. And then now I'm back. That was the last measure, which was, here's the last 2 measures. So 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. And that third beat is me going right back to the very beginning, right? Okay. So you can try that out if you want. And if you can't do that yet, that's okay. That can just be something you can do for fun if you want. All right, let's see here. Okay, so now let's talk about, let's make sure we're on slide number 26. And we're going to talk now about something called 16th notes. But first, before we do that, let's just see if we can experience 16th notes. So what we want to do, let's play, I'm going to play track 6, and let's see if we can count 1 E-enda, 2 E-enda, 3 E-enda, 4 E-enda, while clapping like this. So 1 E-enda, 2 E-enda, 3 E-enda, 4 E-enda. So we're going to clap whenever we say a number, right, like 1, 2, 3, or 4. But then after each number, we're going to say E and So E and So we have 1E and a 2E and a 3E and a 4E and a. Let's try it. Let's see what happens here. So I'll click on the link here on slide number 26. And here we go. 1E and a 2E and a 3E and a 4E and a 1E and a 2E and a 3E and a 4E and a 1E and a 2E and a 3E and a 4E and a 1E and a 2E and a 3E and a 4E and a. Okay. 1E and a 2E and a 3E and a 4E and a 1E and a 2E and a 3E and a 4E and a. Okay, so we don't need to do that all day. And again, you should practice it with me and then practice it by yourself. So you can pull this link up by yourself on slide number 26. And it's important to really you got to practice it until it feels comfortable for you. So after you do that, then let's continue on with slide number 26. So you can pause this video and then practice that. And now here we go. So what are we doing there? What are we counting when we count 1E and a 2E and a 3E and a 4E and a? What we're doing is we're subdividing the beat into 4 parts. And when we subdivide a quarter note into 4 parts, we call that 16th notes. And if you look at the bottom of slide number 26, you'll see that's how we notate 16th notes. Okay? So just a bit more here about notating 16th notes. Let's go to slide 27. So 16th notes are notated with 2 beams. So if we have a group of 4 16th notes, we notate them with 2 beams. So remember, with 4 eighth notes, we might notate them with 1 beam, but with a group of 4 16th notes, we're going to notate them with 2 beams, just like you see on slide number 27. However, if we see a single 16th note, we're going to see 2 flags. Recall that when we see a single 8th note, we see 1 flag. So with a 16th note, a single 16th note, we're going to see them notated with 2 flags. Okay? All right.